Hello and welcome to well, the video sort of thing that I do whenever I get a new console, just to basically list my general thoughts on it for those who are interested, mainly because there's that much crap that you read and hear and see and this, that and the other about the systems that sometimes, every now and then, these vids can help people simply cut through the tremendous amount of bullshit that just tends to be around there. A lot of the time it's a case of, do you know if someone's telling the truth, if they're just talking crap because they don't have the system, etc. Well, anyone who can check my vids will see that I've recorded videos now for every single major system, both current gen and last gen, and many gens before that, to be fair. It's just one of those things. So, I've had it quite a few days now. First thing, in all honesty, I noticed about it was the fact that the controller isn't actually as good as the DualShock 4 in my opinion. It's like all controllers, it does a lot of things right but some things wrong. I've yet to find a controller that does absolutely everything right. I still think there are, it's a great controller on that, and I still think there are some controllers out there that are better, and it's just one of those things. It all comes down to personal preference, but it's daft things. Like I always hated spongy buttons on an Xbox controller on the 360, and they have kept the same spongy buttons and it does me nothing. The analogues are quite good. The D-pad is a marked improvement over the 360s, but at the same time its placement is so horrid that playing any sort of game like a fighter, which is why you want a good D-pad, I just find myself having to hold the controller in such an awkward position in order to actually pull off moves, and it's a bit of a shame. The bumper buttons as well are in a much harder to get to area now because of the size and the shape of the, I think they call them haptic feedback or something like that. Basically it's the triggers with a rumble in them, which that in itself is actually quite a cool system, and I'm looking forward to trying Forza, a game that finally came today, and I've been waiting to install on that because apparently they'll tell me when my wheels are starting to slip and it might actually improve how I play on driving games, so I'm all for that. So it's just literally one of those things that there's some things that are great about it, some things that are bad about it. The design itself's okay, but at the same time, it's, as I say, it's replacement of things. I mean, I don't understand why the D-pad couldn't have been maybe half a centimetre to the left of where it was, and that would have made it much more natural and comfortable to use for a fighter. Maybe even a full centimetre to the left of where it is, you know. This is, though, the controller. It's also the Titanfall controller. I got the Titanfall bundle and it doesn't come with a Titanfall controller, which annoyed the hell out of me, so I decided to buy a Titanfall controller just so I had it. I also bought the bundle now because I said the same thing from the start when it was announced, all these problems and all these things for 6 months before coming out. It sounded like a nightmare of a console and something I didn't want a part of, so I said this, a checklist basically of like 5 things or so, and they had to get rid of, disband, do this, that and the other with all of them before I jump in, and the final hoop was Kinect, which I do actually have a Kinect, and I will explain this in a few seconds, but as soon as they made Kinect unmandatory, then it's one of those things that I thought, right then, I'll finally jump in. And when I went and had a look, the UK gets royally shafted on prices. Our Kinectless bundle is £350 and nothing with it, that's just the console. And £350 is quite an extortionate price when you consider for £400 I bought the Kinect version with an extra pad. Granted, it wasn't a Titanfall pad, so I've now got 3 pads, but still an extra pad, which the cheapest I have found a pad for is £38. I think they might have been a bit cheaper during Christmas and that when everyone was on sales, but the cheapest this past week I found one for was £38. So, see, that's Titanfall now, and the extra pad, that's immediately an extra £80 worth pretty much for the £50 I've paid. So I've saved about £30 there, but not done. Also came with Kinect Sports Adventures, which I traded straight in because I want nothing to do with those sorts of games, for Dead Rising 3. So essentially that was my bundle. I got Titanfall, Dead Rising 3, a spare pad, £400 and a Kinect, which I may or may not keep on the TV. I've now bought a stand for it so that it'll actually fit properly, and I'll probably keep it around even if I just use it as a headset when I play online like I do with the PS4 camera, and for facial recognition to log me in. Although that's the story that I couldn't tell you the first time on the PS4, and I'll be very quick. PS4 camera, there's 3 of us who are brothers. My elder brother and my younger brother, I be the middle child, and my elder brother is from the same the full parents, but basically our little brother is technically our half brother at the end of the day, but he's our brother, you know. We don't really give a shit about that. It's just one of those things, he's our brother. But because of that, my face and my older brother's face looks an awful lot like my dad's face. We've got a lot of our father in us, whereas our little brother's got a lot of his father in him, and therefore we don't really look anything alike. PS4 cam, every single time I try to log in with facial recognition, classes me as the little brother, to the point that I've had to disable his profile on my PS4 because he's got his own PS4 and it kept kicking him out of games logging in. The Xbox One camera keeps confusing him with my elder brother. So both cameras have really, really hit and miss facial recognition, it seems. And I just don't get it. I would understand if it confused me and my older brother. Everyone can look at us straight away and say, yeah, those two are brothers. The camera rarely ever does that. Kinect hasn't done it yet. And the PS4 camera, it's very rare. I mean, it's the sort of thing that it's in low levels of light rare, you know? So yeah, onto the actual camera itself though, because I got it, I thought I'd try it out, and as I say, even if I only use it for those 2 things, I'll probably keep it out. At the end of the day, it came as part of the bundle, and for the value of everything, then it's probably worked out better. The voice recognition though, the actual voice searching, it's very hit, very miss. Sometimes it'll work like an absolute charm, every command will go through, bang, bang, bang. Other times, it won't even recognise when I say Xbox, you know. And it's just the sort of thing that it does my nut in, and any form of background noise seems to completely erase everything. That seems to be the biggest problem, and even if the background noise is the game itself, if I've got the game turned up too loud, then it won't be able to recognise anything, and it's not as if I have a quiet voice, and it's supposed to have technology that wipes out background noise, focuses on the person speaking to the point that it even zooms in on their face to try and read lips as well. And I just don't understand why it's so hit and so miss. Next thing I suppose I should say is installing, which that's what I'm in the middle of doing. That's why I'm not really playing anything. I did do a Peggle review, to be fair, while I was installing. But my first 2 days were pretty much wall-to-wall installing. Titanfall itself took over 6 hours to install, and I'd have understood if that was a download thing, but the download seemed to happen virtually instantaneously. I just couldn't believe how fast that was. But then the installing part just took forever and a day. Dead Rising 3, it got to the point where it installed 60% over about 2 hours, and then it just came to a dead halt, and it took another 4 hours to finish installing. My first 2 days, no word of a lie, I pretty much could only play Peggle because it was the smallest game that I could download and install, and I could pause the other things, which at least that's the one good thing. If an install's taking too long, you can pause it. What I need to try and find out, and I've been trying to find out, and it's why I'm asking it now for anyone who's had this console a long time, can you install in sleep? The PS4 can. I use it all the time. It's rare that I have to use it, because I'll be honest, I put Watch Dogs in the other day and that installed in a minute flat and I was able to play the game. But I can still use it all the time. I can like put it in sleep and I'll know that it'll download and install everything I want. Everyone that I've asked has said yes, it does have background downloads in sleep. That's not what I asked. Downloading and installing are 2 completely different things. Now, I know I've got Asperger's and I quite often take things literal, but to me, downloading is the act of downloading content from the internet, or the interwebs as people seem to be calling it these days for some reason. Installing is when it then installs. For example, you put a disk into a PC, you tell it to install, it rips the data off the disk and installs it. Installing, downloading, completely different things. People keep telling me it has background downloads in sleep. No one has said yes, it has background installs while in sleep. So if you know, please, for the love of whoever the hell it is you believe in, please put in the comments, yes, it can, this is how you do it. You know, it just dements me that I can't find an answer. Google has failed me yet again, because for everyone who keeps saying just Google it, Google rarely seems to work these days, because there's so many posts and that with matching words that trying to find a specific article is a nightmare. And I'm pretty much out of things, I suppose, that I can say about it. A lot of people might come off thinking that I don't like the console because of all the negatives that I've found so far, but don't get me wrong, that there's a lot of positives too. I like the multitasking. I like that I can go straight from a game to Netflix, back to the game, back to Netflix as many times in a day, and it will, depending on if obviously I've took a disc out or anything like that, it'll remember where I was up to. It's got loads of multitasking, it's got this, that and the other, and it's got a load of stuff that makes it a great system, and why I'm glad I finally got one. The games itself, the games totally outclass the PS4 so far, if I'm honest, but the PS4 totally outclasses the Xbox in its system. As soon as I put the PS4 on, it felt next gen. As soon as I put this on, I thought, what? Right. Apologies for the quick interruption, did not realise that was going to happen. I was in the middle of just basically saying that it's just in terms of the operating system and that, I think that it felt very next gen and this one didn't, and it's stuff that can be fixed with firmware, and hopefully stuff that will be fixed with firmware. The shop, for one thing, is significantly outclasses the PS4. It is so much easier to get to the content that you want, find the content you want, download the content you want, unlike the PS4, which can be a complete and utter frigging nightmare. It's got a lot of social networking features on this, which I'm sure if you're into those then that's great, but personally I'm not. It's got quite a few apps that are useful for now, but more can come. And as I say, the biggest reason to get it are the games, which so far the exclusive games alone have been worth it for me. I mean, Super Time Force, I love indie games, Peggle 2, Killer Instinct, I adore fighters. Everyone who's watched my vids will probably find about 100 fighter reviews, and there'll be more to come because I'll be doing both Killer Instincts. There's a golf game that's quite cool. Titanfall, not technically an exclusive. I could have bought that on the PC, but I never did. Plants vs Zombies was timed, but by the time I got it, it's now been announced for the PS4, and I've yet to even play it because it's still installing, but from what I've seen, I'd be amazed if I don't like it. And it's just one of those, the biggest problem that Microsoft are going to have is the problem that they always have. They start really strong, but then they get to the point that in the last 3 years for the 360, I think I can count the amount of exclusives that I have bought on one hand, whereas on the PS4, sorry, the PS3, in the last few years, there's still stuff coming out. Up until the days of the PS4 coming out, there were still exclusives being named and coming out, and there's still Last Guardian waiting to come out. It's just one of those things. Microsoft always start really strong, then peter out. They need to actually finish strong for once, because it does become a bit of a problem when all of a sudden you realise, oh yeah, they must be working on the successor because everything has dried up. And that's, I think, how they start as strong, because everything dries up, and then all of a sudden the launch will a load of stuff and everyone goes, oh yeah, this is amazing, and then 4 or 5 years into the lifespan you think, well, where is everything now? And that's the one thing I will say, that at least while Sony starts slow, they always finish strong. And maybe that's why it's good to have the contrast and good to have both systems, so that you've always got something to play at the start of a console generation and always something to play at the end of one. Nintendo, well, no one knows what the hell's happening with them at the minute. I don't even think Nintendo themselves know what's happening with them at the minute. But it's just one of those things. I really can't think of much else I could say. I hope I haven't really forgot anything, and I also hope this hasn't come off as me just bashing the system. I'm really glad I got it. From what I've played, I know I'm going to really enjoy playing the games for a long time. The controller is definitely growing on me, and as I'm learning how to hold it, but it's just a bit of a shame when everyone kept saying, oh, it's better than the 360 controller, and I thought, well, I'll be the judge of that because that's my own opinion. And I'm thinking, can I have a 360 controller back? You know, it's just one of those things that everyone's different, everyone's got different hands, and maybe that's just simply what it boils down to with this.